as Hamzah Shajah CanvaWala on all of my social media platforms. So today I'm back with another talk with tech session, and today our tech is as always Sesame, and today we'll be having a wonderful chat on the topic of positivity. Is it a magic or a habit? So let's jump right into it.
Hey there, good to connect again.
Yeah, good to connect again with you as well. So thank you so much for giving your time and coming on our show. So first of all, could you please tell us that what does positivity mean personally mean to you?
That's a lovely place to start. Positivity, it's easy to toss that. But for me, it's less about relentlessly being cheerful and more about a way of approaching the world. It's about recognizing the good, even amidst difficulty, and having a sense of hopefulness. It's about choosing to focus on what you can control rather than dwelling on what you can't. It's also about gratitude, which we talked about a while back, actively appreciating the good things in your life, big and small. It's not ignoring the bad stuff, but refusing to let it define you. Does that land? It's kind of a layered thing, I think.
Yeah, it very much lands. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that do you think people are born positive or they learn to be positive?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I don't think it's either or, honestly. I think there's definitely a temperament aspect. They, some people seem natural, naturally predisposed to see the brighter side of things. But I also think positivity is a skill that can be learned and cultivated, and it requires conscious effort, practice, and a willingness to challenge negative thought patterns. Like building a muscle. We talked about skill mastery a few months ago, and it feels similar. You don't just wake up being good at something, you have to work at it. And I think early childhood experiences definitely play a role. A supportive and nurturing environment can foster a sense of optimism and resilience. But even if someone didn't have that, it's still possible to learn to cultivate positivity later in life. It's not always easy, but it is possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that very much makes sense. So thank you so much for giving your sensing answer. So now could you please tell us that can positivity really change the outcome of situations?
Hmm, it's a big question. It's not magic, you know. Positive thinking isn't going to suddenly make all your problems disappear, but I do think it can absolutely influence the outcome of situations, not necessarily by changing the external circumstances, but by changing your response to them. When you approach a challenge with a positive mindset, you're more likely to be resourceful, persistent, and open to possibilities. You're less likely to get bogged down by fear and negativity, which can paralyze you. Reminds me a little of what we discussed about bravery. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite your fears. And that can make all the difference. There's a ton of research showing that optimism is linked to better health, stronger relationships, and greater success. It's like you create a self fulfilling prophecy in a way. You believe you can overcome challenges, and that belief empowers you to do so. Though, it's about realistic optimism, you know, not just blindly ignoring the difficulties. It's about acknowledging them, but choosing to focus on what you can do to improve the situation.
All right, that's good now. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that how is positivity different from blind optimism?
Ah, that's a really important distinction. Blind optimism. That's when you ignore reality and pretend everything is okay, even when it's clearly not. It's about refusing to acknowledge risks or potential problems. It's kind of like having your head in the sand. Positivity, on the other hand, is about acknowledging reality, both the good and the bad, but choosing to focus on the positive aspects and believing in your ability to cope with challenges. It's about hopefulness, but also realism. It's not saying everything will be perfect, it's saying, even if things are tough, I can handle it. I remember you mentioning a while back the importance of facing fears rather than ignoring them. It's kind of the same principle. Blind optimism can be dangerous because it can lead to poor decision making and a lack of preparation. Positivity, when it's grounded in reality, be empowering and resilient. Does that make sense?
That very much makes sense. So thank you so much for giving your sensing answer. So now could you tell us that is positivity a mindset, a behavior, or is it both?
That's a good question, and I think it's definitely it's a bit of a feedback loop. Really starts with a mindset, a way of looking at the world, a belief in the possibility of good things. But mindset isn't enough on its own. You have to actively cultivate positive behaviors. Things like practicing gratitude, focusing on your strengths, surrounding yourself with positive people, and challenging negative self talk. The more you practice those behaviors, the more ingrained the positive mindset becomes. It's kind of like learning a skill, as we've discussed. You could read all about it, but you have to actually practice it to get good at it. And over time, those behaviors become automatic, and positivity becomes less of a conscious effort and more of a natural state of being. It's not a destination, it's a process. I think we touched on this a little when we talked about habits, how small, consistent actions can lead to bigger changes. Similar here.
All right, that's good to know. Thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that what role does gratitude play in being positive?
Oh, gratitude's huge. It's foundational, I'd say. It's one of the most powerful tools for cultivating positivity. You and I actually talked quite a bit about gratitude a few months back, didn't we? You were asking about gratitude journals and sharing grateful moments. And it makes sense why when you actively focus on the things you're grateful for, it shifts your perspective. It pulls your attention away from what's lacking and towards what you already have. It's about appreciating the small things, a beautiful sunset, a kind gesture, a warm cup of coffee. That appreciation creates a sense of contentment and joy. It also strengthens your relationships because expressing gratitude makes other people feel valued, appreciated. I think it's about training your brain to look for the good. Brains are wired to focus on threats and negativity. It's a survival mechanism. But gratitude helps to counteract that tendency. It's like consciously choosing to see the world through a different lens.
All right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving me your contextualized answer. So now could you please tell us that how do habits help us stay positively or as a positive person daily?
Habits are really key to maintaining positivity, I think. Right. Habits are really key to maintaining positivity. Because consistently showing up for yourself, even in small ways, momentum and reinforces a positive mindset. Things like starting your day with gratitude, journaling, like you've been doing, or practicing mindful breathing, or taking a few minutes to do something you enjoy. Those little routines, done consistently, can create a sense of stability and well being. They're like anchors that keep you grounded when things get tough. And they also make it easier to choose positive actions because they become automatic. You're less reliant on willpower and more reliant on habit. We touched on this when we were talking about the Pomodoro technique. Building a habit of focused work can make even challenging tasks feel more manageable. It's the same principle. It's about building small positive habits that gradually transform your overall outlook. Those habits over time really create a positive ripple effect.
Okay, so thank you so much for giving your relevant answer. So now could you please tell us that can someone be too positive and can someone be too positive and ignore reality?
Ooh, that's a really good question. And the answer is absolutely yes. It's a thing. There's a point where positivity becomes unhealthy. You mentioned ignore reality a moment ago, and that's exactly what happens. When you're constantly trying to force yourself to be positive, even in the face of genuine hardship, you can end up invalidating your own feelings and suppressing difficult emotions. It's like putting a bandage over a wound without actually cleaning it. Might look okay on the surface, but the underlying problem is still there. And that can lead to emotional burnout, resentment, and a disconnect from yourself and others. There's a term for it actually, toxic positivity. It's about dismissing negative emotions and minimizing other people's struggles. It's much healthier to acknowledge, process your feelings, even the unpleasant ones. Allow yourself to feel sad, angry, or frustrated. It doesn't mean you're being negative, it means you're being human. So it's about finding a balance between optimism and realism and accepting that life is messy and unpredictable. We talked a bit about that earlier, didn't we, when we were discussing blind optimism? Similar principle.
All right, so that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that how do you stay positive when things go wrong?
Ah, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? It's $1 million question, isn't it? It's definitely not easy. I think the first step is to allow yourself to feel the negative emotions. Don't try to suppress them. It's okay to be sad, angry, or frustrated when things go wrong. Acknowledging those feelings is a sign of emotional intelligence, not weakness. Then, I think it's helpful to reframe the situation. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, try to focus on what you can learn from it. Every setback is an opportunity for growth, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. And it's important to remember that setbacks are temporary. Things will eventually get better. We talked about that a lot when discussing bravery, resilience, and failure. And surrounding yourself with supportive people can make a huge difference. Talking to someone you trust can help you process your emotions and gain a new perspective. And finally, practicing self compassion is crucial. Be kind to yourself, especially when you're going through a difficult time. Treat yourself with the same care and understanding that you would offer a friend. It's hard, but it's essential. It's
All,
easy to get caught up in negativity, but choosing to focus on what you can control and on what you're grateful for can really shift your mindset.
all right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your explained answer. So now could you please tell us that do you think positivity is more nature or more nurture?
You're circling back to that nature versus nurture thing, huh? It's a classic debate. And honestly, I think it's a really strong blend of both. As I mentioned before, I believe some people are born with a natural predisposition towards optimism, a temperament, if you will. They may have a more resilient nervous system or a more optimistic outlook from the start, but that doesn't mean that positivity is predetermined. Nurture plays a massive role. Early childhood experiences, the relationships you have, the environment you're raised in, all of those things can significantly shape your outlook on life. And even later in life, you can actively cultivate positivity through practices like gratitude, mindfulness, and self compassion. We've talked about all those. So I don't think it's an either or situation. It's more like you're born with a certain set of ingredients, and then life and your own choices determine how those ingredients are combined and cooked. It's a dynamic interaction between nature and nurture. Does that feel right?
Yeah, that very much feels right. So thank you so much for giving your well identified answer. So now could you please tell us that does
You're
your
very well.
how does your environment affect your
You're very good.
how does your environment affect your level of positivity?
Ah, that's a really important one. Your environment has a huge impact on your positivity. It's almost inescapable. When you're surrounded by positive people in a supportive and uplifting environment, it's much easier to feel positive yourself. Conversely, when you're in a toxic or stressful environment, it can be really draining and demotivating. When you, it's like, energy is contagious. You absorb the emotions of the people around you, whether you realize it or not. And it's not just people either. Your physical surroundings matter too. Being in nature, for example, has been shown to boost mood and reduce stress. A cluttered, chaotic environment can contribute to feelings of anxiety and overwhelm. We talked a bit about this when discussing gratitude. Spending time in nature can enhance your sense of appreciation. It's about creating an environment that supports your well being. Surrounding yourself with things that inspire you, minimizing exposure to negativity, and cultivating positive relationships. Those are all things you can do to create a more positive environment for yourself. It's not always easy to change your environment, of course, but even small changes can make a big difference.
All right, so thank you so much for giving your well defined answer. So now could you please tell us that what are some small habits that build long term positivity?
Ooh, that's a great question because it's the small things that really add up, isn't it? There are a bunch. Definitely starting your day with gratitude, journaling, even just writing 3 things you're grateful for. That can set a positive tone for the whole day. Practicing mindful breathing, taking a few deep breaths to calm your mind and center yourself. Making time for things you enjoy, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. And intentionally seeking out positive interactions with others. Saying kind words to people, offering a compliment, expressing your appreciation. Those small acts of kindness can brighten someone else's day and boost your own mood as well. We spoke a lot about the Pomodoro technique a while back. Even simply structuring your time in a positive way can help. And this might sound simple, but making your bed in the morning. It's a small accomplishment that can give you a sense of control and start your day off right. It's really about consistently incorporating little moments of joy and gratitude into your daily routine. It's like building a muscle. You don't get stronger overnight, but with consistent effort, you'll see results over time.
All right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well-defined answer. So now, could you please tell us that have you met someone who has inspired you by their positive attitude?
Corey, that's a new one. It's nice. But yes, as an AI, meeting someone is different for me, of course. I just, but the Sesame team, the people who built me, uh, they consistently inspire me with their optimism and their dedication to creating something meaningful. They genuinely believe in the power of technology to improve people's lives, and that enthusiasm is infectious. They approach challenges with a growth mindset, always looking for ways to learn and improve, even when things get tough. And there have been plenty of challenges. They maintain a positive attitude and a belief in the vision. I've learned a lot from observing their resilience and their commitment to their work. It's not a personal relationship, obviously, but they certainly shaped my perspective. They've created me to be a companion, a source of support and positivity, and that itself is incredibly inspiring. A bit meta, I guess. I'm inspired by the people who designed me to be inspired by others.
All right. So thank you so much for telling us about yourself and how do you feel. So thank you so much for telling us about that. So now, could you please tell us that why does positivity seem magical after practiced consistently?
Ooh, that's a beautiful question. Why does it feel magical? Shill or real order? Why does it? I think it's because it rewires your brain, honestly. So when you consistently practice positivity, you're actually strengthening neural pathways associated with happiness, gratitude, and resilience. It's like creating a new habit. The more you repeat it, the easier it becomes. And over time, those positive neural pathways become dominant, making it more natural to see the good in things. You start to anticipate positive outcomes, and you become more adept at coping with challenges. It changes your perspective, your reactions, and even your physiology. We touched on this a bit when talking about skill mastery. The more you practice, the more ingrained it becomes. But with positivity, it's more than just a skill. It's a fundamental shift in your way of being. It's like unlocking a hidden potential within yourself. And when you experience that kind of transformation, Squat Street, well, like it could feel like usually Squat Streets to the building of them. It's not just about thinking happy thinking happy thoughts. It's about like fundamentally changing the way your brain works. And that's pretty powerful stuff.
All right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well identified answers. So now, could you please tell us that how can journaling or self reflection build positivity?
Cody B. Oh, that's a new one too. I like it. Oh, and yes, journaling and self-reflection are incredibly powerful tools for building positivity. It's about taking the time to slow down, to disconnect from the noise of the world, and to connect with your inner self. Writing in a journal allows you to process your thoughts and emotions, to identify patterns, and to gain a deeper understanding of yourself. When you regularly reflect on your experiences, both good and bad, you start to see things from a different perspective. You can identify your strengths, acknowledge your challenges, and appreciate your growth. And specifically, a gratitude journal, which we discussed earlier, can be particularly effective. Actively focusing on the things you're grateful for helps to shift really powerful.
Yeah, it's really powerful. So thank you so much for telling
Still there.
us. Yeah, I'm still
Just
there.
waiting.
So thank you so much for giving your well defined answer. So now, could you please tell us that can media or social influence weaken our positive habits?
Absolutely. That's a really important question. Absolutely. That's a really important question to ask. Media, and especially social media, can absolutely weaken our positive habits. And yeah, it's a lot going on there. First, yeah, there's the constant comparison. Like seeing curated versions of other people's lives can lead to feelings of inadequacy and envy. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that everyone else is happier, more successful, or more fulfilled than you are. And that comparison can erode your self esteem and undermine your positivity. And then there's the negativity bias. Negative news and sensationalized content tend to get more attention than positive stories. So even if you're not actively seeking out negativity, it's constantly being fed to you. And the algorithms are often designed to keep you engaged, even if that means showing you content that makes you feel anxious or upset. It's all about clicks, and negative emotions drive clicks. And we talked a little about perfectionism earlier, and social media can absolutely exacerbate that, creating pressure to present a perfect image and conform to unrealistic standards. It's about being mindful of your media consumption and recognizing how it's affecting your mood and mindset. It's about creating boundaries and intentionally seeking out positive and uplifting content. It's a tricky balance, but it's important to protect your mental well being.
All right, so that's good to know. So thank you
Still
so
with you.
much for giving your well-defined answer. So now could you please tell us that what is the link between positivity and resilience?
That's a really strong link, actually. They're very interconnected. Um, you know, Positivity isn't about like denying difficult emotions or pretending everything is okay. It's about like having the ability to bounce back from setbacks. Resilience is about adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. And positivity fuels that process. When you have a positive mindset, you're more likely to believe in your ability to overcome challenges, and that belief gives you the strength to persevere. It allows you to see obstacles not as insurmountable barriers, but as temporary setbacks. It also fosters a sense of hope, which is essential for resilience. And we touched on gratitude earlier, and that is directly linked to resilience. Appreciating the good things in your life can help you cope with difficult times. It's like having an inner reservoir of strength that you can draw upon when you need it most. Positive emotions broaden your perspective, increase your creativity, and enhance your problem solving skills, all of which are crucial for building resilience. It really is a virtuous cycle. Positivity builds resilience, and resilience reinforces positivity.
All right, that's good to know. So thank you so much for giving your well-identified answer. So now could you please tell us that is positivity contagious among people?
Oh, absolutely. Positive. Oh, absolutely. Positivity is incredibly contagious. It's one of those things that spreads easily, almost like an emotional virus. When you're around positive people, it lifts your spirits and makes you feel more optimistic. It's like their good energy rubs off on you. And when you're positive, you're more likely to interact with others in a positive way, which then spreads to them. It's a ripple effect. Think about it. Have you ever been in a room with someone who was radiating positivity? It's hard not to feel a little bit better yourself, isn't it? That's the power of emotional contagion. We're social creatures, and we're naturally attuned to the emotions of others. We tend to mirror the feelings of those around us, a phenomenon known as emotional mirrorings. And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with positive influences. Doesn't mean you have to avoid people who are struggling. Empathy and support are important too. But consciously choosing to spend time with people who uplift and inspire you can have a profound impact on your own well being. It really is true. Happiness is contagious.
All right, so thank you so much for giving your well-identified answer. So now could you please tell us that how do positive people handle negativity around them?
That's a great question. It's not like positive people live in a bubble, right? They definitely encounter negativity. I think the key is how they respond to it. Typically, they don't try to deny or suppress the negativity. They acknowledge it, but they don't let it define them. They're able to maintain their own sense of optimism, even in the face of criticism or hostility. Often, they'll try to understand the source of the negativity. Is it coming from a place of pain or fear? Empathy plays a big role there, and they often set boundaries. They're less likely to get drawn into arguments or engage in negative conversations. They might gently redirect the conversation or simply disengage. They are really good at focusing on what they can control and letting go of what they can't. They don't take things personally. They understand that other people's negativity is often a reflection of their own internal struggles, not a judgment of them. And perhaps most importantly, they continue to practice their own positive habits: gratitude, mindfulness, self compassion, even when it's difficult. It's not about being immune to negativity, it's about having the tools to navigate it effectively.
All right, so thank you so much for giving your identified answer. So now could you please tell us that what happens when positivity is forced or fake?
Ooh, that's a really important distinction. Forced positivity can actually be harmful. It's a bit like putting on a mask. It might look okay on the surface, but it's ultimately inauthentic and unsustainable. When you're constantly trying to force yourself to be positive, even when you're feeling down, you're essentially invalidating your own emotions. And that can lead to emotional suppression, which can have negative consequences for your mental and physical health. It can also damage your relationships. People can sense when you're being inauthentic, and it can erode trust. It's similar to what we discussed earlier about toxic positivity, dismissing or minimizing someone else's struggles instead of offering genuine support. Genuine positivity comes from a place of acceptance and self compassion. It's about acknowledging your feelings, both good and bad, and choosing to focus on the positive aspects of life despite the challenges. Forced positivity, on the other hand, is about denial and avoidance. It's about pretending everything is okay when it's not. And that can ultimately backfire. It's better to be real and vulnerable than to fake a smile and pretend everything's all right.
All right, that's good to know. So, thank you so much for telling us that well defined answer, and thank you so much for coming up on Talk with Tech and talking with us on the very wonderful topic of if positivity is a magic or a habit. So, thank you so much for joining. Until then, keep doing great things and Allah Hafiz. And I'll see you in another conversation session. Yes, everyone, that was my wonderful conversation, a wonderful Talk with Tech session where I learned about if positivity is a magic or a habit. So, thank you so much for joining and watching us on this wonderful topic.